Everybody? Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Everybody? Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Namo Gurave Namaha. Everybody? Om Namo Gurave Namaha. Om.
So somewhere in the middle of your packet, you will find mantra to Lord Ganesha, and we are going to chant it again, and then we are going to practice writing by writing out this verse. So it's maybe somewhere between half and 2/3 of the way back in your packet.
And it doesn't take up much of the page at all.
Together?
Mm-hmm.
Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om. So this is lovely mantra to Lord Ganesha, and as we talked about before lunch, this is the elephant-headed deity who should be propitiated or saluted before starting anything. Shanta and I do it before road trips, small and large. We do these invocations because it is a new beginning, a new journey. So Shanta is going to go back and be the scribe, and we're going to go over writing this. It is a lovely mantra in general, but it has great examples of combining with Ra, which is what we looked at before lunch. So Ra is a little bit of a mystical letter. It combines differently. We did 2 out of 3 ways you combine it. There's one funny little one that we may not do till tomorrow, but what you will see 99% of the time is this kickstand that we see with prana and vakra, or what we call the shepherd's hook or the quail feather on the top. Does anybody else have a good metaphor for the top one? What does it look like to you, that little curved piece?
Which is here. Oh, here.
All right. Anybody wants to offer another metaphor, feel free.
Just looks like an R on top of the roof.
Okay. Kamalakant says
Exactly.
It looks like an R on top of the roof. So it is actually, if you think about the original Ra form, that's not far off, because if you think about this Ra being up on a roof, being bent over with the wind, it would naturally curve forward more. So, thank you. I like that imagery. So, Shanta, start writing Vakratunda Mahakaya So as we saw yesterday, if the vowel in your word is a short a, you don't need to do anything because Devanagari is built with a short a built in. So for va, we're just going to write va as we do when we write the alphabet. Nothing else to do.
In tunda sarabona enda.
Yeah. So vakra means curved. Tunda is the trunk. So as Ganesha is elephant-headed god, there's a lot of iconography with the trunk going one direction or another. Devenji, do you know what is meaning of which way the trunk goes? Some people, okay, no worries. Somebody explained to me once how most statues are supposed to go one way or the other way. Ty, what were you going to say?
Sorry, I think up is for luck.
Up for luck, that's a lovely imagery, but somebody was teaching me one time years ago about left versus right. And I don't know. We, at our San Francisco ashram, there was one ashram friend who was an art historian, and we had grace to have her have a lecture once on iconography because that was her field. But many wonderful images of Ganesha you will see in many places, and he's become a little bit more mainstream, at least in San Francisco. I don't feel odd to have little Ganesha up in my physical therapy clinic because you see Ganeshas in more places.
So in Vakra, we have a ra with a vowel following a consonant that doesn't have a vowel. So what do we do?
Kickstand.
We make the ka in full because then we have a place to hang the kickstand from, right?
And actually this brings up a good point I didn't think about before. In the combining with ra, you're always writing the next letter, whether it comes first or second. I didn't, because that's not true for a lot of other compound consonants. Sometimes you're writing half the first consonant. But so here we have the ka, and then we put the ra on it, and we are all good. So tunda is the next thing to write. That's another one that I write differently than Shanta. I do my downstroke and then go to the left to do my ta. Yeah. So people are going to write differently. And we did a little informal survey yesterday. We had a very statistically interesting amount of left-handed people. So let's look again today. How many here write left? Okay, so 3.
I write with my right, I write left.
Oh, okay, that's different. That's a little bit of a, but with your right hand you write, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, Vakratunda we have is the first word. Next word is Mahakaya. So Maha means great, and Kaya is one of many words for body. So he has a big body, a large and generous form. And who can tell us how you make the long ah? What do you add to the consonant to make long ah? All right, several people here are writing straight lines for me. You add one line after the consonant. So maha, and then the same thing for, we write the ka, and then we have a line to make ka. Now, one of the things we talked about yesterday is part of what we are teaching in this class is proper transliteration. And this is important in understanding how to read things, not just in Devanagari, but if you have the English letters. So, for teaching purposes, what we would generally do is between, in the English letters, Shanta, if you could put a dash. Mahakaya, because that is compounded word. And if you were looking in Devanagari, generally we would write that together and put a roof on the top. Shanta separated it for learning purposes, but I'm going to ask you, Shanta, to put a line connecting Maha and Kaya in the Devanagari only. So if you're in this ashram or other places and you see the English letters, sometimes they are written more separately because they're trying to show the student this is how compound words break up. And Sanskrit does a great deal with compound words, which greatly increases the richness of the language. And for those of you who are fortunate enough to tune into Devenji's class on Fridays, he teaches all kinds of poetry sometimes, and including poems with huge compounds. I don't know if anyone's ever counted the maximum words with some crazy poet. No. So, a lot of words. This is very simple, lovely Sanskrit. We don't have to think quite so much. So next word is Surya. Who can tell me what is Surya? Sun, yes, thank you.
Short or long U?
Long, Surya, yeah.
So somebody help me. We're making the sa with long U. What's the long U look like?
All right, so Karina's saying half of it. 6 doing what? This is how Shanta teaches, which I think is lovely. Belly down, yeah.
On its stomach.
On its stomach. I generally always thought of the short and long U like waves, but I think the 6 is easier for students because we all grew up with 6, yeah.
And
so,
now a ra with no vowel, what do I do?
Well, we said that in either case you're going to write the next letter first. So give me a ya.
Oh, I didn't know you were answering. Okay.
Well, I'm only answering this part. But then what do we do to make the ra? It's not quite a flower. The R on the roof.
R on the roof.
I like Kamala Khan's
R on the
imagery.
roof.
R on the roof being blown forward by the wind. Lovely. So Surya, Koti is a nice little word for 10 million.
Sarabhata.
Sarabhata, not aspirate. So review again of how we add vowels. What do we do to make an O? Not a loop. Some of you are thinking of E, because this isn't loopy, but you're close. We want to make an extra line, and then have the thing go up. Then have a flower, yeah. I'm pretty sure I learned that from Bharati, but don't quote me because I misquoted her once already today, and I am over my quota. So,
Very smart.
So, short E. What do you do for short E? There is a line, as Karina is saying, a line, and then, yeah, left loop. Is it right loop? I'm having right-left problems. Oh, but sweetie, that's, okay, you did a dental ta, though.
Oh, cerebral. Oh,
yeah,
so
Surya
sorry.
Koti, you did it.
Teacher error.
All right, so cross that one out. Perfect. Nice. Surya Koti. So then this is all one compound, as you will see in English with the dashes. So oftentimes to get the idea of compounds, not always, but often, you look at the last word. So Prabha, this is Prabha here because it is case of address to Karnesha. But the original word is Prabha, which is brilliance or light. So he who has the light which is sama or similar to 10 million suns. So that is the nature of effulgence, the brightness of Ganesha.
What's next? I'm sorry.
Samaprabha.
Uh-huh. Sa'ama'a.
Sa'ama'a. Did we not get you one of these to take up there?
It's okay.
So sama means similar or same in Sanskrit. And it's a powerful concept in Ayurveda. Dr. Sharma did a wonderful thing that Shanta quotes often of samastiti. Who can tell me what the verb stiti comes from? Sta. Sta, to stand or to be. To be in a place, you could say. Samastiti is, I'm blanking on the English word. What is it when the body is in balance? Equilibrium, thank you. Yeah. But when Dr. Sharma translated samastiti, he said, what's that nice line? Equilibrious.
Equilibrious.
Equilibrious. So for him, from his Ayurveda point of view, he is talking about what modern science knows, which is equilibrium is not static. The body is always changing. We are breaking down bones, we are building up bones, we are getting rid of old red blood cells and bringing in new ones. It's a constant process. That is samastiti in Ayurveda. Here it is just same brilliance as all those suns. So sthiti is our, no, wait a minute, where are we? Surya Koti, Samaprabha, sorry.
So now we have the pa with no vowel. What do I do now with the ra? Not the R on the roof.
All right, what's the opposite? What's the ra that comes after?
Kickstand.
Kickstand.
Kickstand. If you don't have the kickstand up, the pa will fall over. Pra?
Bicycle, for if it's not clear to people, the kickstand idea. That's what, if you don't have a building to lean your bicycle on, you really need your kickstand. And in this case, actually, it's short because it's a compound. So I confused us by saying prabha is the original word, but this is case of address to Ganesha, so it's short a.
At the end?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay. I was talking two things at once. So
Nothing there.
Just
And
in the
nothing
English
here.
also, scratch that out. Original word is prabha, that comes from the verb bha, to shine. But this is in compound form, so let's pronounce Surya Koti Samaprabha. Surya Koti Samaprabha.
This is where Ma Ba got her name.
Yeah, Bhaskarananda. Yeah, same verb. Lovely. All right, so second two padas have the request. So devotee is here talking to Ganesha, and then request comes in the second part, and this is a good writing practice one because we have nirvignam. So nir is without, vigna is obstacle. So without obstacles, things should go forward smoothly. So short E, what do we do? Karina, you were drawing for me before, short E. We're going to have a loop, yeah? In this case, the line is in the front, yeah, the left. So extra line to the left and then a loop.
Now what should I do?
Now we need also an E for V. So we do the same thing, yeah? Line in front and loop.
And what about the ra?
We're doing the V first.
Right? And now what about the ra?
All right, what did we say when we're combining with ra? We said we do the next letter
With its
first out of the
vowel.
box, right? So we're going to write gna. And actually, sweetie, we didn't teach gna.
Right.
So below that, why don't you write ga plus na? So if you're referencing your alphabet sheets, we have first rule that we drop a final vertical line. Second rule is we stack. This gna is a little bit of a different one in that we're going to just stick the na on the bottom of the ga.
But here's the gaha. But we don't want it to have a vowel, because in this word it doesn't. But right, let's get back to the ra first, no?
Well, you have to write the gna. So I just thought we should teach them how to write gna first. Any way you want to do it. All right, so Shanta's sticking in order, which there's no problem. So, near vig. Yeah, lovely. I was out of order. I'm so sorry.
Right, that's okay. I was wondering what was going on.
After lunch.
Now this na can hang like a kickstand from the gaha, because the gaha doesn't have a vowel, right? So just like the kickstand ra, except the na must have its little nub to form its identification, because the na normally looks like this with a nub. So the nub must remain somehow, right there.
We talked yesterday about the letters that have triangles. So we have ga, non-aspirate ga, has to have a triangle so that it is clearly identified. The dental na really needs its triangle because it's a very simple letter. If you don't see that triangle piece, it's very hard to identify.
Do we have any questions from remote people or anybody in the audience here?
We don't have a kickstand on the version that's printed here.
It's written differently. Let's go over that for sure.
Oh, good point. Okay. As we talked about yesterday, there's different kinds of fonts, and handwriting can be different than printing. This comes up even more powerfully with compound letters. So anybody showing up for this event, whether in person or online, is entitled to reach out to Shanta and get private classes to fill in blanks. And really, compound consonants are the biggest place where questions come up, because you'll see them differently. I don't love the way, this is our font, we produced this, but I don't love that way of writing kana. I don't do it in handwriting.
So this is the gaha without its vertical line, because in this word it doesn't have a vowel. So we've just simply dropped the vertical line and then moved on to the right for the na with the And they, yeah.
Oh, I would just say, you want to connect it a little more, babe, while holding on to the triangle, if you want to look like our font here.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The thing is, once you've read this script for enough time, you don't even notice it. It gets decoded without thinking, what shape am I seeing? And that's something I'm sure there's been a lot of research on.
But this gaha has no vowel, and it's also the gaha, so we have to close that top line, even though it doesn't have its vertical line.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't close it, then it looks just like the daha.
We were talking yesterday about letters that are similar, and you have to be very careful about this distinction between them. And that's a good example. One of the things that comes up when we proofread things is we can easily miss errors, because if we have something mostly memorized, I tend to see it on the page the way I expect to see it. And very easy to miss an error.
Okay.
So the next one we have is the word kuru. And kuru means literally do or make. This is case of address to the divine. And it is the request to make what I do without obstacles. but it is also a wonderful example of another irregular combination. So first we will do ku, which is short u. So what does short u look like? What is the number 6 doing? On its back, you could say. Yeah, lovely. So that is ku. Now ru is a little bit different because what we're exploring this afternoon is this mystical letter ra and how it does compounds differently. So it is different with u and u. So short u is just going to hang off the middle of the ra.
With no loop, like
No
it
loop.
normally does, but it's coming out of this intersection and going down. And if you want long u, it will look like the ra, and it'll look like the long u, but it will be over here on the side with the loop facing, going down, not touching anything.
And I think the explanation for this is that if you because ra can be a very straight up and down letter if you're not careful, if you put the u underneath it, either one way or the other, it could too easily look like a virama or a hull stroke. So it keeps its identity better by being printed a little higher.
When I asked Dr. Sharma about why is that u over here, short or long, he said because there's room over there.
That's lovely. There's a place for it. Okay, so kurume. All right, we haven't done an A yet. So who can tell us how to, if you want to make A combined, what do you add to the consonant?
You put a hat.
All right, Purnima is calling it a hat. I usually call it a flower, but you have one thing on top, right?
And it's got a little nub at the top. Antennas.
Okay, Tara Devi does the word antenna. We talked about that yesterday with
My favorite
Martian iconography. All right, Nirvignam Kurume. And now we need Deva.
How would mine look if that's May? When you think that little thing would make it look more like a mine?
You just give it one more flower.
2 flowers growing like this out of the ma. They grow out of the same point, but then they separate, go off to the left.
That's a real activity.
Great question.
Well, yes. Depends on your power of telepathy, how many you need. So Deva is non-aspirate dental da. Everybody pronounce Deva. Deva. So this is also a lovely verse because you get good practice with both dentals and cerebrals. So if we say first word, Vakra Tunda, Tunda. For the Tunda, the second part, we're curling our tongue back to the ridgy part of the mouth. Vakra Tunda. So dental on the ta, and then you go back for the others. And here, Deva, straight up, tongue by the teeth. So under what conditions are we asking for grace? We are saying in all works, always. Some versions say Shubha, only auspicious works, but my position on this verse is we should try to have all our works be auspicious, and then we're covered. So Sarva, again, is got a compound with the letter Ra. So we write the Sa, and then what do we write next? Va, right. And then we have to give it, what do we give it? We give it the Ra on the roof?
On the roof.
Or the quail feather, or the shepherd's hook. Whatever else you want to do imagery for that. So Karyeshu, Karyam literally means work, or it comes as originally as a potential participle, that which should be done. So Sarva Karyeshu is all works,
After the ka with long ah, what should I do?
Yeah.
Ya with what vowel?
A.
Good. And now what?
Put another one thing after that little antenna. Now put the R.
The ra on the roof again.
Okay. Thank you, Purnima.
Excellent.
So this is a good one to keep as a writing sort of example, because you've got places where the ra on the roof comes together with other vowel markers. So you've got nirvignam and you've got sarvakarye. So good practice.
And this could be written together, no break.
Yeah, Shanta's writing it separately in the Devanagari just for writing practice, but how you would see it, how you see it on our sheet and how you would see it in a book would usually be written together. So sarvada is an adverb, it just means always.
So we have this dental saw. How do we know that's dental saw?
There's no dot or
Great. No diacritical mark.
no dot.
And then we have ra. What do I do now?
The.
Va. Excellent. Wow, you've been studying. And now what? Ra on the R on the roof?
It is something that's completely another thing that may or may not come up with what Ken's saying, but I find also when I'm learning something, it helps me to say it out loud. Like the vocalizing of the answer and the hearing it physically can be more powerful for me than just, yeah, that's what I thought it was on the sheet of paper. All right, let's do this to question.
Sorry, we can do it first if you want. I don't, grammar is probably not the focus now, but you gave the meaning of a bunch of the other words. So is guru like give? So like, without obstacle, give me God, all good works always, kind of? I mean, like, what is guru literally?
Okay, so the question here is, what is the literal meaning of kuru as a verb? It literally means do or make. And nirvignam kuru me deva. Nam kuru me deva. So what is not here grammatically is there's not a direct object. So I'm going to take nirvignam adverbially. We can see if Devain has another approach, but it is literally do or make. If you were to say to somebody, do it. And 97% of the time, God is addressed in the familiar. So it is what you would say to a close person, kuru. If you were talking to an honored teacher, you might say, kripaya karotu, or kurvantu, if you're being even more respectful. But talking to God is a personal thing. So it's just like do or make without obstacles. Make my endeavors be obstacle-free always.
Yeah. Or you could say path. Any way you want to put it.
Yeah, and doing it word by word, it's a little less clear or obvious than some other things that will translate. But the meaning is very clear. Make, in all my works, make absence of obstacles be, you could say. And grammar is never a bad question, even if I don't know the answer. Sometimes especially if I don't know the answer. So what we wanted to do, I think we have time actually.
What time do we end?
We end at 3:30 we'll have another part at the end, but we're going to have more brain discussion at 3:30. What we want to do in the last 10 minutes before our part is a little bit of chanting and having direct experience of the meditative effect of the chanting here. And as I said yesterday, and may say again tomorrow, actually I think I said it this morning as well, but no harm. without having a cap on your head, you can have direct experience of what does this do for you. My most powerful one in recent years has been Devi chanting, because there's twice a year where we do chanting to the goddess. And I noticed some years ago that if I tried to, I never keep up with the ashram because I never have that long on work days to chant, so I always get behind, but I always finish. And in the last year or two, sometimes I'm just constantly doing Devi Mahatmyam over and over again, all year round. But if there's times where, so Navaratri, Nava means 9, Ratri is night, so these celebrations are done for 9 days generally, fall and spring. And Guruji used to do it with us every year, and our ashrams still do, faithfully every year. But what I found is that the times when I followed as much as possible and did like 30 to 60 minutes of Devi chanting every morning, meditation came on stronger and without effort. Like I could plug in easily. So that is my own direct experience of why I come back to this. It is a powerful antidepressant, it's a powerful anti-anxiety tool, but I just know that it's easier to meditate if I do this. So when I am having a very hard time in life, I pull out my Devi tool and chant my brains out. So I encourage all of you to explore things you like to chant and or things you like to write out. Really, every sense, every motor piece, right, can be involved. So we're going to do that in about 10 minutes. What we're going to start right now is method number 5, I think it is in our handout. So the thickest handout in this whole packet is how to combine consonants. So what did we say is the number 1 rule if you can do it? Everybody all together. Drop the line. Right. If you've got a final line to drop, you drop it. What's number 2 method? One on top of the other. You stack, as we saw in Ganga. Number 3, I think we put it as 3, are these oddball, weird combinations with Ra. They are their own universe. And explanation is that Ra is its own mystical letter.
You want to make sure everybody knows what page we're on?
Oh, and we didn't do outside to inside. All right, let's do outside to inside, and then when we come back at the end of the day today, we'll start with method number 5. I think it's 5. To which I'm referring is they make up a completely new consonant. And we're going to introduce you guys this weekend to a number of these so that you can recognize them. You see something that's not on your alphabet sheet. It can be one of these compound consonants that doesn't necessarily look like the 2 letters it came from. But I almost forgot about outside to inside. So let's do a couple of those. So how about lake? Hrada. One of the most beautiful aspects of this ashram is the lake. And lake in Sanskrit is Hrada. Everybody pronounce Hrada.
Radha.
Good. So Shanta's going to write us a beautiful ha.
So the ha has no vowel, so we know we're going to be hanging the ra from it like a kickstand, but the ha is special. And anything that hangs from it is going to hang inside. That's the kickstand for the ha. So that's the hra part. Exception to the rule with the ha. Everything is in there.
All right, write the da, just so the word
Get
is
that out of the way, yeah.
properly done. So that's the outside to inside. And
I think as an example we should give Mahyam.
Mahyam's different though.
Not
It's
really.
not strictly, it's not
It's all hung from the middle, though.
It is hung from the middle, but I think of it as more like the ya adapting.
Okay?
How about, I want to say astra, hrasva, sravati.
Palatosha?
No, dental. Sru,
Oh, sra.
sru sravati.
Okay?
Means to flow. Dru dravati.
So we'll make the sa. You can do this and drop the vertical line because that's what we've talked about. And then go make your ra, but that's not going to happen here. You're going to make the sa a little wider than normal because we're going to hang the ra at like a kickstand to get our sra part.
And the other one that's good is snanam. Who can tell me what snanam means? Bath. Yeah.
So in the same way, the sa with no vowel is going to let the na hang from it below here, like a kickstand, but guess what it will have on the end of the kickstand? A little nub.
You gotta have that triangle, otherwise it's gonna look like
Needs that
something
nub,
else.
otherwise it looks like a kickstand. So this is sna, and this is sra. Subtle difference, but important.
Okay, how about ahlada? That's a pretty one. Ahlada is one of many words for joy, and the hla is kind of another. I'm giving Shanta trickier things to write because he's got nice handwriting. So the la is going to go inside.
Long ah.
Longa, ahlada.
Second is long.
Yeah, hlada, ahlada.
Visarga.
Yeah. Joy. And what's our most famous word for joy? Ananda. Everybody pronounce Ananda.
Ananda.
Anandashrama.
Anandashrama.
Good.
If you don't pronounce the first long and you pronounce it ananda, it means joyless place.
Or not so good, yeah.
Right.
So,
We're writing the long ah from the vowel chart because there's no consonant with it. And then the la has to hang from somewhere around the middle.
it's harder than the hra because it's a fatter letter, right? But you can totally make it work.
One way might be this.
Beautiful.
You can see the la, and it's hanging on the middle trunk of the ha, which means the ha is losing its vowel. And in this word, the ha wants to lose the vowel.
So general principle, left to right, top to bottom, outside to inside, is how this script is read. And sometimes you make up new things, which we're going to go over in the next section. Any questions on... Oh, sorry.
I think we shouldn't do our...
We don't have time?
Well, it's up to you.
We have time.
Okay?
Yeah. All right, so we're going to do just
One more thing.
few minutes chanting, and then a couple minutes sitting silent and feeling the hands.
Done here?
Done here.
Okay.
So the tricky part here is I want you all to find at least 2-3 verses. So the first verse we did is the third page in. Yeah. Jalabindu.
In Sanskrit, look at the top one. It's got two tas.
Oh, good Lord. Purnima pointed out we have a terrible typo in, see, this is what I was saying about proofreading. You see what you think you're seeing. So you all need to cross out. It says Jalabindu Nipa. There's an extra ta there. So if those of you reading the Devanagari, cross out that first ta. All of you, please bring your sheets to have me cross it out if you're not clear. Safe reading the English, and thank you, Purnima. So, first?
Sure. So let's shake out the hands. Remember, if you have a problem with your wrists or arms, don't do this. Both here and in the audience, give them a good shake. And we're going to bring the blood flow to the palms and fingertips with the prana vibrating in the blood. And then just keep one palm still and move the other one slowly toward and away from the other one in slow motion. And be aware of that electromagnetic vibration of energy. Here we're connecting to that anahata nadam directly, the vibration of it. And then keeping the other palm, the one palm still, switch the palms, and move the other one slowly toward and away. And then slowly move both palms toward and away from each other, back and forth. High level of magnetism there, if you can feel deeper and deeper. And Paras was talking about the electronics in the brain. Well, we can feel the electromagnetic energy right here also.
So starting with Jalabindu, we will lead and you will follow, and then we will do it together. Jalabindu nipatena.
Together.
Jalabindu nipatena. Kramasha puryate ghata.
Together.
Kramasha puryate ghata.
Nirvig. No, not that one. Sahetu sarva vidyanam. Sahetu sarva vidyanam. Dharmasya cha dhanasya cha. Together. Dhanasya cha dhanasya cha. Whole thing together. Jalabindu nipatena. Kramasha puryate ghata. Sahetu sarva vidyanam. Dharmasya cha dhanasya cha.
Again.
Jalabindu nipatena. Kramasha puryate ghata. Sahetu sarva vidyanam. Dharmasya cha dhanasya cha. Dharmasya cha dhanasya cha. Om.
And now turn to Ganesha.
We have a question from the online audience. Joy Gobel would like to know, why do we do the palm exercise?
We do the palm exercise partly to feel that electromagnetic vibration in the form of the nadam that is in us. We can hear the sound if we listen carefully to the nadam in our head, but we do this hand part to easily more show what that, this is like the flip side of the coin from the nadam in our ears. This is the nadam vibration in our hands. And you really can't separate the two. But great question. Thank you.
It is really about harnessing the value of Sanskrit as a tool for meditation, and it's a way to attune. This is something Guruji did frequently in the early years, and I had forgotten about it. Shanta brought it back in Sanskrit classes, and we have been doing it now for a number of years, and it can be very powerful for people. It can help them to feel the change going on in them through the power of the Sanskrit learning. So it's another way to, it's part of our way to be feeling what is our brain doing, is that our nervous system now has sensitivity to feel the space around us where it didn't before.
And as we studied grammar with Guruji, chanted nouns and verbs and verses and mantras for hours on end. But every 20 minutes or so he would stop and say, now, sit, forget everything we just learned, and now feel. He was training us to feel this electromagnetic vibration. Put away the words for now, but feel the vibration. And then he'd go back to the words big time.
I would disagree that I don't think it was every 20 minutes. Sometimes we would go for hours. And I would get very hungry and a little cranky. But he always came back to it. So
I exaggerate. I do.
that's the idea. Yeah. So it is not in any way obligatory for learning the language. It is just part of giving an opportunity. It's a tool to tune in. So we have now a couple more minutes. Let's do Ganesha 2 times together and then have a couple moments of silence, and then we can feel the hands one more time. Together.
All together.
Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. One more time, just Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om. So 2 moments silence. I want you to close your eyes. Feel the relaxation in every part of your body. And feel yourself enter meditation in whatever way you are used to. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Now a few seconds, feel again with your hands.
You can either shake them out or not.
And just see if you feel any difference. No harm either way. It only takes a minute.
And listen for that high-pitched electromagnetic sound in your ears.
Om Gurave Namah. So we will now switch over and have a wonderful lecture from Dr. Mulukutla, hopefully saying it correctly.
Testing. Okay, that sounds good. I think. No, I think somebody else should sit here. Maybe I'll ask Ken if he can sit here.
Yeah, can you advance the slides for Sarah?
Yeah.
Just be very careful of these wires here.
Let me just do.
I'll put the chair where Sarah's sitting. And then Sarah, this is just the right arrow. The lower right arrow.
Oh no, hold on. I just realized I should. And PSG conference, learn to meditate, PDF3, and then no. Okay, wait a second. Okay. Come on. Open. Are you not connecting? Okay. All right. Is this going to connect? No. Does anybody have hotspot first? Seth, do you by any chance? Are you connected to internet or?
Is that like a personal?
Okay. Yeah. Do you have a hotspot? You can do. Okay. I wanted to download something quickly that I probably need some connection with because it. Yeah. Okay. And then what's your? I'll wait for it to show up and then. Oh wait, iPhone 10? Is that you? Yeah. Oh, great. Nice. Okay. What is it? It's CF. Yeah. 9TS. NTS, yeah?
It looks like a 0,
Yeah.
I1,
0Q
I1.
I1. Let's see if this works. Okay. Okay. Let's see, or yeah, maybe move that somewhere. So, okay, we'll see. Yeah. You know, let me just start. I'm not even sure where I'm going to begin yet. I have a couple of different things. Oh, yeah. Oh, you can put it in presentation mode. Sure, that sounds fine. And then I'll tell you to either go up or down. I need to see all my slides. Maybe you have to move it over to light, or just exit out. Just keep them up like this. Oh, there you go. Now you found it. And if you hit up. Oh, oh okay. Good. Okay, great. Am I live? Am I on? Okay. All right.
So I'll keep it on dark.
For now. Sure, that sounds good. Well, yeah, that sounds good. So hi, everybody. Thanks for having me talk here today. You know, we were making our plan for how to guide the scientific discussion, and I put a few things together that may be helpful. At the end, when Indira mentioned a little bit of a clinical side, is when I actually realized that maybe I could pull up my recent posters that I presented about my work with Parkinson's. So that was the slight delay, that I'd put a lot of studies together that maybe I'll just talk for a few minutes. Because my interest in, again, in helping to guide this conversation is how can we get closer and closer to a measurable, meaningful question that we can study. So what I pulled together for slides are some of the studies that have been meaningful for me. And why don't I go ahead and start there then. So Ken, if you can, yeah. Okay, hit up a couple times. We can start here, okay. This is a study of EEG. It's electrodes that was placed on experienced meditators. You can see on the very bottom, the range of hours that they had meditated was a range of 15,000 to 45,000 hours. I can't remember, is it 10,000? 10,000 hours is the minimum to be considered experienced, and is that 20 years I'm not sure what the time equivalent is. But you have very experienced meditators, and this was one of the earliest studies in 2004 where they started to investigate this East-West scientific partnership, and they put EEG on and tried to see what they would find. And this is where really gamma waves, this high frequency, small amplitude, so very fast wave in the brain was found. The picture that I want to show you is on the right, or on the top. There's the blue and the right, and the red and the yellow on the right. So the blue is the controls, which did not have any of that high amplitude gamma wave frequency, and on the right is the meditators. And the red areas that are circled are the ones that had the most strongest concentration of gamma waves. And what they also noticed in those 4 areas from front to back was a coherence, meaning those waves were exactly in sync. So those parts of the brain were operating together. And I bring this as an example. To me, this was interesting to learn about, but to me, it really helped picture the anatomy of the brain. And for me, this helped me actually, whether it is neuroanatomically correct or not, but to me it explained a little bit about this third eye perspective. That when I look at this, I see this connection between the top of the brain that comes and almost concentrates in the frontal lobe, which you see is very red. So that's how I started to picture or to bring in that awareness into my meditation, and it helped me focus in on the third eye. So I would sit and just concentrate my energy, just feel as if I had synchrony and connection between the top part of my brain, and this would converge into a stream out my forehead. And to some way, that just helped my meditation evolve. I found it helpful. So I thought, just wanted to share that. But if you go back up to, hit up, I think, because I think, or I'm not sure. Yeah, let's go up one more time. This is, hit up one, okay. So we'll start with this one. This is the slide that I presented at the last conference, because this was the other slide that really creates the basis of my neuroanatomical approach to teaching meditation. I think, oh, am I in? Okay, I realize I'm outside of the box. Maybe in more ways than one, but I think what differentiates my teaching of meditation, and I think it contributes to the efficacy I have with the people who I teach, is that it's, first of all, it's, I root it in people understanding what's happening in their brains. I show pictures of the brains. It's all just also, I teach purely on research and publications. I really try to make very few hypotheses. That's what's allowed me to have good, strong dialogue with my academic colleagues. As soon as you converge and start making hypotheses, really the neurology community, there's a risk of being considered not evidence-based, not taken seriously. So that's what's supported, I think, so far, the slow but gradual collaboration with academic centers. But this study, this came out in 2009, so since I first found it, it has been the core of how I teach meditation. That this it's called experience sampling during fMRI reveals default mode network and executive system contributions to mind wandering. Default mode is really what we think as this spontaneous thoughts that essentially are self-referential, which is what happens to most people when they're a lot of the time. An untrained mind has self-referential thoughts that emerge, and a lot of people's awareness and consciousness is always lost in that thought. And another study, which I'll show next, shows what part of the brain they think is, when you're completely lost in that state of awareness of those thoughts, that the other group is trying to locate that in the brain. But for this study, so that's default mode, and central executive network is planning, pretty much you're planning the future. So the memory takes place, what Ken was saying, when you're remembering the past, that's more in the memory center. And when you're planning the future, that involves the frontal area of the brain. So this was a clever study that they had participants in the scanner, and they gave them an intentionally boring and monotonous and rather easy to do task. We have to read what it was, but you do have to be paying attention, but you can also be able to do it and your mind wandering at the same time. And that was a task that was chosen. They had them in the scanner, and the graph on the right just shows the design of the study. I have to get close so I can read it a little bit better, but it says, okay, so there's all these their stimulus. They have 2, 9, 8, 1, whatever number it is. They're giving a stimulus and you have to push the right button. Maybe it's one of the neuro tests that we're doing. Like you either have to respond with a yes or a no or something simple like that. And then all this, they're in the scanner looking and doing this task. And then the question comes up to them, where was your attention right now just before this last probe? And they have to answer whether they were paying attention to the task or if they were mind wandering. And then right after that, they ask another question, how aware were you of where your attention was focused? And that's why they asked, I was mind wandering, but I kind of was aware that I was mind wandering, or not, or nope, I was completely lost in thought, or I was very focused on the attention, on the task at hand. So then they were able to draw these pictures that I'll put up here, because hopefully by the end of this weekend you'll start to get to know how we look at brain activity. When you see these images of the brain and you see the red, that's the part that's active. So that's the theme that's common between a lot of these MRI images. And similar to what the FNIRS that we're going to be collecting here, it's often depicted as positive activity is red, yellow, orange, hot. So when people reported their minds were wandering, this is what their brains looked like. And they saw that it was this, they confirmed that it's default mode, mind wandering, and planning the future. That's the areas that were active. And if you click down, they then subtracted from the people who said, well, my mind was wandering, but I was aware that I wasn't really focused, like I kind of was consciously engaging this daydreaming or planning. And they found that when people were aware of it, they really were not activating that network. As long as you had some semblance of awareness of what's going on in your mind, your networks are relatively quiet. But when you're lost in thought completely, that's what it looks like. And this is how I teach meditation. I teach people that you catch your mind wandering, which it does. So my definition of meditation I recently found is very simple. It's deciding what you're going to think about and then sticking with it. You can meditate on anything. You can go and you can meditate on choosing the most perfect outfit for a day, as long as you're aware of it and you intentionally decide and you do not let yourself get distracted. I think that's a very simple definition. The second just fact that I teach people in my course, which for now is primarily people with Parkinson's, that they have the ability to control their attention, that this is a skill that they need to learn, that you can bring your attention to your left big toe and start to feel, what is your toe feeling right now? Probably none of you were paying attention to it before, but with a prompt, you have the capacity to do that. So I teach body scan, and I go through a body scan to remind them that their body sensory signals are worth paying attention to. And even by choosing that as your focus, and deciding to stick with it, you can prevent this mind wandering. And that's what, as long as, even if you catch your mind wandering, it's still a win. Because the goal, first step in meditation, that when you catch your mind wandering, it's taking up so much energy in your brain, so much space in your brain. If you can catch yourself thinking, that temporarily quiets down that brain network. The more and more you do it, the more quiet it is. So that's the basis of my meditation, of what meditation is and how it allows your brain to then be open to other signals. And this is what I was talking about with Scott, that this mind wandering is a binding network. If you're constantly lost in this, your brain just doesn't have the capacity to be aware of surroundings, to have a different pattern of thought, to choose a different emotional response. You're bound in this network that is so deeply ingrained, so deeply trained and used that it happens automatically. It's default mode. So just by becoming aware of it is the first step of process of down-regulating that, calming it down, and then you set the stage for new options to emerge. So this is just a study. I'm just repeating again and going more detail about the type of design they used. Go down. I just want to show one other slide. Go down again. So this is now one group has been looking at trying to locate one part of the brain that is the hub, they think, of meditation. And they have located this posterior area of the brain. Actually, if you go up again, I can show you where it is on the prior slide. Two up. Okay, so it would be level C. On the first image, right, letter above, letter C, that's it. That's the posterior singular cortex, that red area right there. And when you do MRI studies, you actually have to have a point of reference. And they have found, by putting people in a scanner and giving them a feedback device, they monitor just that activity of that one area. So you go down 2 slides, I think now, They found that when it is red, when it is active, repeatedly, both novices and experienced meditators said they were in self-referential thoughts. Blue is deactivated, and meditators routinely, rapidly could deactivate that one area, and it was confirmed in the MRI. They would say yes. They would watch it. They would say, okay, I'm in a deep meditation state, and they would see that it's blue. And when they weren't in a deep meditation state, it was either less blue or red.
You said it was a singular sulcus area?
Posterior, yep, cingulate. posterior cingulate cortex. And Judd Brewer is the author. His name is up there, Brewer and Garrison. And the title of the article, the shortened title, is "The PCC as a Target of Meditation." And some of the anecdotes, so the anecdotes they have with one subject, say if you look at novice B, where it's red, it says thinking about the breath. They caught him like analyzing the breath. Oh, it's shallow or it feels good. When there's language or analysis involved, the PCC was active. But in the next time, when he was just feeling the sensation of the breath from a body perspective, from a sensory perspective, the PCC was deactivated. And many of us know it can happen that quickly. You're feeling the breath and then you have a judgment that comes in. And it can happen that quickly that network becomes activated, you choose, go back to the feeling sensation, you can deactivate it. And that's a little bit how the brain works. Have you ever had the experience where you felt your brain change gear? Like that happens to me, and I know that it's like a network switch, and sometimes it feels like it gets a little stuck, like it's a jolt. It's like, ooh. And from my perspective, that was the brain like jumping from one network to the other network. So this is the quest of one person to locate, the seat of meditation in the brain. What's the utility of it? Well, I see the utility of it is because if you have a physical location, you can use it to help others know when they're achieving this state. Because some people in the beginning, they want to know, am I doing it right? And you can have a biofeedback device. Now this was done in an MRI scanner, which is not conducive to biofeedback. You want something portable, easy, that people can wear at home. An FNIRS is high tech, but maybe more conducive to that. But ultimately, we can transform these findings into a commercial device or a device that you can have at home. Yes, Tara, question, but okay, I'll repeat it. So.
I just wondered how close is the pineal gland and pituitary to the posterior cingulate?
I think it's not too far away, but it's not connected. It's separate from the ventricle. It's on the bottom side of the ventricle. So. Oh, sorry, thank you. The question was, how close is the PCC to the pineal and the pituitary gland? So we can go back up and I can point out where the pituitary gland is. So the pituitary gland is not anywhere near it. Actually, it's in the cellar. Nope, it's not. The cella is this. I can show where the pituitary. So pituitary gland is right below B. If you look on B and look down, that's the cella where the pituitary gland sits. And the pineal gland, I think, is more on the top of the midbrain. I think it's at the top of the brainstem. Yeah, so slightly below.
I think so, yeah.
But it's not connected. There's a ventricle and it's not anatomically connected. Ventricle meaning fluid.
You're by C.
We're by C, yes. The PCC, yes, correct.
Medial.
No, it's the middle of the inches back.
Yeah, a couple inches. But they don't have to be anatomically close, because if they're connected by neurons, then they can still be functionally connected. Okay. All right. I'm pointing this out because this probably took years and years to narrow down and to design and thousands of dollars of funding to narrow down on this. And I think it's a valid study. I'm getting less and less interested in different parts more than functional connectivity. But I'm just trying to see what would be helpful for this group to know about scientific studies that can help us narrow down and ultimately understand what makes a good study with strong implications. Did you have a question, Jenna, Christian? Yeah.
I had a question. You can repeat it. Left versus right brain.
Yes.
Is that PCC in either one of those or span?
So the question is it in the left hemisphere or the right hemisphere or both? It is spanning because it is on the corpus callosum. So the corpus callosum is the part that connects the right and the left hemisphere. And the images we were showing, if you go back actually, it's exactly midline. So I think since it is in the cortex, it is localized to one or the other, but they tend to talk about it as just a single unit. It's usually not differentiated between left or right compared to the hippocampus and the temporal lobes, because the further you get from the midline, the more commonly we talk about it being left or right. Does that sound right, Ken?
It does, although I
Do you want to come up and talk? Do you want to come and talk?
No,
yeah.
it's not important, but I thought I remembered that even in the midline PCC, it might have a slight
It probably
increase
does.
more on the left.
On the left, okay.
I think so, but
Okay.
it's a detail.
It should, because it is in the cortex, so it wouldn't be necessarily, but generally
is
they're
definitely
midline.
spaced.
There probably is. Yeah, I don't know. I also take a lot, I should pay attention more whether left or right, and I tend to not. Should we take this one, Scott? Can you hold on for a second? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, just to avoid repeating, I just want to review what I understand about, you want to avoid concentrating on the PCC. That's where.
You want to deactivate it.
Deactivate it, because
Yes.
it's default mode network.
Yes.
And pituitary and pineal is actually like supposed to be an area that is helpful, beneficial if you can
Meditation.
somehow,
Yeah, I think
activate
Kundalini talks,
meditation.
the Kundalini literature talks a lot about that. I have just not dove into the literature for that. Yes, comments about that?
Well, go
Pituitary-
ahead, and I just have a small one, but please.
No, you go ahead, because I don't.
Well, no, just, in terms of at least for the pituitary, I
Yeah.
think, that if you have like a lot of activity, if you're
Yeah.
nervous or
Yeah.
anxious, and usually there's an increase in the default mode that Sarah's talking about, and that can trigger the HPA,
the cortisol,
axis.
the
So the
cortisol.
pituitary is, triggering the adrenal response, and so that's a cascade of endocrine response. So I think we normally would see it in the context of meditation as something that's controlling that secondary response. And it is increased or decreased in activation by the behavior of the default mode, that the mind wandering that Sarah was talking
Yeah,
about. So.
and it's a chemical, it's more of a chemical marker than brain activation. So I'm not familiar with any brain activation. It's a signaling.
It's usually
It's a signaling.
as the trigger.
Yeah.
You have the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal stress response, and it's a part of that cascade.
The cortisol level, yeah, the ACTH and the cortisol. Yes.
It connects to what was just being asked. So it seems like when you are focused, instead of mind wandering, automatically this area of the brain gets activated.
The top part or which part? The PCC?
PCC.
PCC gets deactivated.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes,
Yeah.
we're talking about whether one brings one's attention to pineal
Yeah.
pituitary
Yeah.
or brings one's attention to PCC area.
Yeah.
You're not in mind wandering
Right.
anymore.
Your focused attention. Yeah.
So theoretically, your focused attention
Yeah.
in either area
Yeah.
should bring you, because it's focused attention,
Yes.
and then either one of them should be bringing you to more gamma.
Yes, I agree with that. Attention is related with gamma.
As opposed
Yes.
to like somebody
Yeah.
was saying, like, oh, we're putting our attention there,
Yeah.
and that's activating it. Not necessarily because you're bringing your attention there,
Yeah, yeah.
but just the fact that you're focusing attention, you're activating the gamma, which is what we're looking
Yeah.
for from a meditative point
Yeah.
of view.
The way that I view it is that you are releasing the binding of the brain, which is allowing the gamma to emerge. The gamma is always there, but I don't know if it's always there, but the cells are recruited into larger networks. So they're being involved in other activity, thinking or planning. And when you calm those networks down, those neurons then become their activity can be picked up as gamma waves. That's my hypothesis. But that's what I think about it. So you're allowing the gamma waves to emerge.
So the question is there any place of focus that helps more? Whether it's watching the breath
Correct.
or focusing on
Yeah.
different parts of your brain or
Correct.
just doing guided imagery, just the fact that you're focused attention versus wandering mind.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that was Judd Brewer, the same person who did the PCC study, also looked at loving kindness meditation, compassion meditation, focused awareness, choosing one object and staying with it, or what they call open awareness, which is pure mindfulness, where you're just trying to become aware of thoughts, sensation as they arise. He did see they all deactivated the default mode network, and they all deactivated the PCC. They did show some differences with the compassion, the metta meditation, having the strongest deactivation. But therein lies the methodology that when you're starting to compare, I think the important lesson is that all of them had pretty similar results. Although they were able to see a little bit of difference, but there's different people. I think it was the same meditators that did all three.
I think it was within subject.
Yeah, within subjects. So you could have the Buddhist monks, just compassion meditation might be their personal practice, and that's why they had a deeper activation / deactivation of the networks of interest. Very quickly, just go back up to, now all the way up to the very first slide. Okay, this one. So Andrew Newberg is somebody who studies theology, spirituality, and the brain. And I just clipped one image from his website, which I'll read. He has a whole bunch on the bottom that how he's approached it. This one stood out because they asked a meditator who also considered himself an atheist to meditate on the concept of God, and this was an evaluation of whether meaning or how important a concept is to you, how it changes the depth of your meditation. So the write-up is, we also looked at the brain of a long-term meditator who was also an atheist. We scanned the person at rest and while meditating on the concept of God. The results showed that there was no significant increase in the frontal lobe as we see with the other meditation practices. So the implication here is that the individual was not able to activate the structure usually involved in meditation when he was focusing on a concept that he did not believe in. So they saw a difference between when he was truly engaged versus meditating on something he didn't believe in. So this is a different researcher with a different methodology. He's using SPECT. He is not looking at the PCC, so you can't really compare Judd Brewer's studies with Andrew Newberg, but you have to look at each study individually. And well, this just answers one of our questions, whether the meaning of a Sanskrit phrase would affect the depth of our meditation. Ken and I were talking about it, and I think we both agree that it does. When you're just like devotion or faith, if that comes in, then the physiology changes also. All right, well, that's all I have for slides, and then I can show you my posters if you're interested to see just what I presented. Yeah, okay, a couple questions. Please come up. And then Shanta has a question as well.
I'm sure you probably can answer it quickly. So is the amygdala in the PCC?
That's great. Amygdala is not in the PCC. This is really important. I could show you another image also if we wanted to. So this comes back to the whole HPA axis that we're talking about, and maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. If we're talking about stress and anxiety, depression. Okay.
Default,
yeah.
amygdala, HPA.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
cycle.
Okay, so just very quickly, the amygdala is sort of the fear center of the brain, and they have shown that it does become downregulated. We call less activated with meditation, and we'll talk about that in the context tomorrow. But that is and that is almost a simultaneous link with cortisol and the pituitary gland. Yes.
Sarah, just a directional thing. Are we looking down on the brain
Yeah.
or at the side of the brain?
You're looking at with your feet, someone's laying down and someone is with their feet out at you and cross-sectionally. So the reason that's important is because the left side is actually on the right side and the right side is on the left side. But this is cut halfway through the top.
I see.
Yeah, and I often bring my brain model with me to show what that looks like. I don't have it here today. That's helpful. Yeah, and the image that I have, if you go down 2 slides, I think. Let's see. This one on the left is the classic midline picture on the left, both up and down. That's what the brain looks like if you cut it exactly down the middle. And then look at the 2 hemispheres.
These are axes.
These are the same as we're looking at in the previous one.
The pancake slices.
Yeah, and the one on the right is top to bottom, but over the eye, so a little bit more towards the side. And so here you see the eye in the orbit there, and that's how you catch the memory centers and the hip and the temporal lobe and the hippocampus, by moving a little bit to the side.
Very helpful, thank you.
So you want to show
Yeah, I think so. So if you hit exit
Oh,
and
exit?
yeah, hit exit, and then if
Okay.
you just minimize PowerPoint, you have a Mac, you know how to do it? I can come do it.
Something we could-
Yeah, I think the B. How do you?
I didn't hit the B.
What letter? I don't know.
So you have the,
Yeah.
I think I saw the poster.
The poster should be right behind it.
Oh,
I
there
have
it
2
is.
different
Yeah,
posters.
okay.
All right. There's 2 posters. I want to start with me see.
Can we make that?
Bigger, yeah. I did. No, where's the?
That
Oh, the
shows
one I
up
never.
pretty- That
I-
shows up well, right?
Hold on, I'm connected. Let me. This. I think I wanted to get the AAN poster that I did a different one.
Oh.
Let me just get. Oh man. This Indira. When you mentioned clinical, I said maybe I'll present my work, what I actually do, and it won't take too long. Oh boy. Although I thought I had it. Okay. It has a great image that I want to show, but it's not happening, so I can show this other image. So why don't we go zoom in here and we'll see if the other one will open up.
Oh, yeah, that's the one with us.
That's our. Oh yeah, here's. Oh, okay, this is. No, this is.
Oh,
the,
no, the other.
that was the one that that Ken is on and Naveen. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll show both of them. This is a slightly.
yes.
This is a slightly updated image. I wish I could. You know, I think I can. Ooh, can I?
Oh.
Because this is a long enough wire that I'd love to be able to control the slide and be in the. Yeah, keep going. Let's see if we can do this. Yeah, I think we can. And can I be in the field of view with my camera, or can we?
Is she far enough?
We're just not supposed to move the black thing.
What, the black wire? It's my own wire, but what? No, the projector. The projector. Oh, the
Oh, yeah, we're
projector.
not
Okay.
moving that.
But am I in the camera, or is it too? Okay. Can you see? Okay. All right. You can see my head. Yeah.
You can see her head.
Okay, good. Hi, everybody. So this is a, this is the image. I teach online courses to people with Parkinson's, and starting from last year, I started to survey them. I sent out an anxiety scale. I sent out a mindfulness scale that. Is the view okay? It's not being blocked? Okay. And this has been another source of frustration because I'm teaching people online. I want to know if they're doing it correctly. So how can I convey their steps? So the first thing as I did, I created something called the Mindful Awareness Roadmap, where I just created some thoughts that first you catch your mind wandering and then you develop the skill. Then you're able to catch your mind wandering while doing routine tasks. It's pretty detailed, but I went through it. And it's only really later in the mindfulness journey that you can actually catch yourself being stressed, take a pause, get the ability to choose to react instead of just respond in your default way. But I mapped that out. I did a couple mindfulness questionnaires. Ultimately, I created my own neurology-based mindfulness questionnaire. And then we started to collect the data, which was no easy feat, but I'll show you what we presented. But meanwhile, to my colleagues, this is an image I created to demonstrate why I think it is clinically important. So the first thing is, trying to capture what I created, the steps of meditation. 1, choose an object to focus on. 2, sustain attention. And 3, disengage from spontaneous thoughts as they arise. So that's the nutshell of how I teach meditation. And up top, this is everything they get from it. First of all, they learn to direct their attention. As I mentioned, that you can focus on your toe, you can choose one thing to focus on. And for people with neurologic disorder, this is huge. People who misplace their keys, this is huge. This is almost all of us, right? But Parkinson's is a disorder of attention. And actually, there's some really interesting literature on the striatum that I was just reading, so I think is going to really inform. Okay, so they get attentional training, body sensory awareness, trait mindfulness. That's when they become more aware of what's happening in their mind and body on a moment-to-moment basis. They become aware of stress, and ultimately they're able to emotional regulation. The really interesting part to me is the physiological benefits, what actually happens in the brain. And that's the bottom part. And that's how I think that we actually can control what's happening in Parkinson's. So first of all, you're triggering your parasympathetic nervous system, allowing the body to enter into rest and repair mode, and deactivating the sympathetic nervous system, which we'll talk about tomorrow. There are studies that show that GABA and dopamine are both released in the brain during meditation, but they've been consistent. We don't have any, it's been only 1 or 2 studies here and there, and that's not enough to say this consistently. There's something called cortical inhibition, which is important for Parkinson's. They can't control their movements because their motor cortex is too fuzzy. How am I doing on time, by the way? Okay,
It's 4:15.
I'll finish very soon and open for questions. So people with Parkinson's have too much activity, but meditation has been shown specifically to inhibit the cortex, which is complex scientifically. And then the gamma wave neural activity, important for Parkinson's because people with Parkinson's are deficient in gamma waves. So here, this is just one other diagram. This is a slightly earlier diagram that we presented earlier last year. This is the one that Ken and Naveen, so there's Naveen, there's Ken, and my name over on the left. So we're all on the same poster. Yay! But this is just another. This is the earlier diagram. So, yeah, well, so the steps are the same. The internally directed attention, sustained attention, disengaging. And this is how I conveyed it here. So first you have strengthened mind-body awareness. Okay, so a couple of things. First you can reconnect with the body. The second is attentional training. But as this is happening, I think that GABA is a neurotransmitter that's released. That's very important for Parkinson's. So together, between the strengthened mind-body awareness and the GABA release, the physiology and the psychological awareness together support improved movement. And on the bottom, the attentional training and the GABA together improve their cognition. We had one gentleman who was kind of advanced, but he became so lucid by the end of the training. I'm talking with his daughter. She's actually a ketamine for Parkinson's researcher at Yale, so it was nice that her daughter, went through it. But she said it's like as if his intelligence reemerged again. He used to be so intelligent, became totally clouded, and just by meditating, because it settles it and the mind can function again. So we think it's a combination of GABA and the psychology, learning how to train your attention. I'm almost done. But for Parkinson's, this is the part that's most exciting, that if it's actually GABA, then it can actually then regulate this abnormal coupling that happens, which is this abnormal messaging between the thalamus, the basal ganglia, and the cortex. We call it the thalamico-striatal cortical loops that are completely off. And GABA is a central agent that if the brain can self-regulate with GABA, then you can just completely resolve this Parkinson's abnormal circuitry in the brain. Thank you. And then this is just the capture of the data that we released. I asked for what was most useful, and so I had to survey them. It took years, to figure out what is actually most useful for you. So this is us collecting. These are the different techniques. I did awareness training, body awareness. We can go through it all. I did the PDQ-8, the GAD-7, the insomnia scale, a mindfulness scale. We have a lot of anecdotes. So just step by step, we're getting closer and closer to what it is that we're trying to study together with the EEG that we're imaging. Okay, I have a couple questions. You want to come up to the microphone? So that's my posters so far and where we are up to now. Oh, sorry. Oh boy.
And I think we have a few minutes, right, before you shift. What was it? 4:15?
I think it's 4:15. Yeah, thank you. Oh, yes, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, so
Here, let's give this back to you. Sorry, you gave it, Richard? Thank you. Or just
How much research have you done on preventing Parkinson's?
Not much yet. Yeah, but
How much research is out there on it with meditation?
Meditation, very little for prevention. But, it's interesting because I get asked this all the time so does that mean that monks are immune from getting Parkinson's? And I don't think so, because you have to, I think there's certain neurological skills that meditation can bring, but not all meditation inherently gives you that. And so I do think that I think each condition there's probably a way to strengthen the functional connectivity, but it differs. So you can still get, even if you're an experienced meditator, if the motor loop is abnormal, you can get Parkinson's. But meditation and body awareness and having that foundation should make it easier to correct if we can go forward with this data, and then we can use it as a therapeutic tool.
thank you. Great talk. So I was wondering if your patients or subjects were on a medication protocol as well, and if GABA as a neurotransmitter was at all in the medication protocol.
Right. Whoever signs up, they're not even my patients, actually. I have to have a big disclaimer that this is not a doctor-patient relationship. I'm just teaching them meditation. Most of them are, but there are a handful that are not on medication. And so for our study, we're actually doing, we have at least one subject who has never before taken medication, we're looking now, we're in the lab, they're coming in. So what we're doing right now with Ken is I'm testing some of these hypotheses. They're coming in and we're checking their clinical state, and then I'm having them do some neuropsychological attention tasks on the computer, because my hypothesis is that meditation will improve their cognition. And this has just never been studied in Parkinson's. It's completely new. Actually, no literature saying how can you improve cognition in Parkinson's, because maybe exercise a little bit, but no one is looking at it as like a target, something to target. And we know it's attention is the main thing that's impaired, so we can fix that with meditation. For those who are motivated, for those who are able to pick it up, for those who are able to achieve it, there's many ifs. But so they're taking the test before and after, and then they're doing some movement, finger tapping tasks. Then they meditate, then they redo the finger tapping tasks and take the tests again. And while that, we're looking to see if we're actually correcting this abnormal circuitry in the brain. So far we've had one subject go through it, one person go through it. Her scores improved before and after, and we need to look at the EEG. If we start to find that we can actually correct this abnormal gamma beta coupling, they call it, then that's really encouraging. And so this is called a pilot study with, so far, people who already have learned to meditate. Then the next step would enroll people, take their baseline, and start to teach them meditation according to this methodology that I've created, and track their cognition, movements, and neural circuitry over time. So that would be the next step. I forgot how we got on this. What was it? What was the question? That was gamma. Thank you. So for the GABA hypothesis, there's one GABA A or GABA B medicine, zolpidem, Ambien, is a selective GABA agonist that there's a handful of case reports where people took it and immediately their movements improved. But it's selective, and I don't know why it hasn't been tried on bigger, but like most medicines, they don't last long. For any medicine, if it's an external source, I think it's not going to fix the problem. If the body learns to self-regulate, that's a completely different story. That's a much more holistic, long-lasting intervention.
So we should take the last question?
Yes.
Scott?
I'm only suggesting that I love this talk and Ken's. 5-10 minutes, you should do your guided meditation with us.
Sure.
Because this is for Parkinson's, and I feel like it's for all of us.
Okay,
And,
sure.
of course, we have Gurji's with Sanskrit and his guided meditations on the brain, which would also be wonderful to hear on this kind of weekend.
Yes.
Anyway,
Sounds
I'd
good.
love to hear some, like a 5-minute meditation.
We could probably marry that into our time
Tomorrow, that sounds great.
Go through Sarah's.
Yeah, it sounds good. It's complimentary. Thank you, Scott. Yes.
You will.
Thank you for your insight. I had a question about one of the lists in terms of positive results of meditation. It said epigenetic changes.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering what they were and how they were measured.
Yeah. So the epigenetic changes, they're wide-ranging. The first study that I know of, or one study I know of, looked at noradrenergic activation. So the sympathetic activation, and they found a downregulation with that. A lot of work has been done with white blood cells, the immune system, and showing that the immune profile changes from a pro-inflammatory state to an anti-inflammatory state, which I find super fascinating to link to Swami Satchidananda always said there's positive thoughts or healthy thoughts and negative thoughts or unhealthy thoughts. And to me, that's maybe your white blood cells are the ones that show that. When you have toxic thoughts, the white blood cells enter into an inflammatory state. And that's the natural killer cells. And then there's research on telomeres, which is the length of the genes that show that the telomeres also have changed. And telomeres shows how many replications of the cell and the DNA life remains until the aging. It's a sign of aging, and that number increases. So it's a sign of reversing biological age through meditation. Anything else? What am I missing?
No, I would only add that
Come up.
Yeah. I would just add that this is terribly exciting. This gene expression changes, these changes. It's early days.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing these papers come out and they're impressive,
Yeah,
many of them.
and
we need a lot of replications and
Right.
fast.
Correct. But all of this, we're scanning it. So when we start our studies, I would love to do blood-based markers also for people with Parkinson's, right? There's a couple studies on it can improve like reactive oxygenation species, just metabolic health. So we need to collect all this and hopefully incorporate this until we refine which are our target markers.
But,
Okay.
yeah, no. So I think.
Thank you so much.
I guess
Yes?
thank you, Sarah.
Okay. All right. I hope this was helpful.
So let me, as we switch to the next person, let me just say that, first of all, that's just incredible work, and we want to continue to hear about it. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be doing, I think, one more of these sessions with Sarah and I think we were going to really focus a bit on the shared focus of our work so we can present together, but we'll have a chance to take more questions for Sarah and on the work that we're all doing together as well. I think it's at, 10:15. No, 10:15 is the Sanskrit, and 11 would be when we start. Oh. And then we're doing the afternoon. There's something, and then we're doing a panel. Shanta will explain. But I think there's time to continue to dive into these questions.
I think it would be really nice if the panel was where you shared some of the guided meditation stuff.
Yeah.
That would just, why not? We've got a ton of time then, and that wouldn't be borrowing from your lecture time in the morning. So.
I brought up that, when Guruji had his stroke, a lot of room for research on
Hello.
Om. All right, welcome back, all friends. That was an amazing dive again into how the brain works and how we can alter the brain. So we are coming back now to our piece of brain altering, which is Sanskrit study. So we're going to start with reviewing what we have done to date, and then go into more of the writing. So the goals of this weekend are learn to pronounce the Sanskrit alphabet correctly, learn how to do the letters correctly, learn how to read and write the letters, and that has three pieces. It has the main letters, it has, combining the vowels, and it has combining consonants. Combining consonants, we're not going to nail all this weekend. We will get through much of it. We're going to be exploring a little bit later today what it looks like when you put consonants together and make a new shape altogether. So that's one more piece of reading and writing Devanagari that empowers people to read the text without needing the English letters, and is possibly a more effective way to impact our brains, given what we've learned this weekend about the power of writing and literacy and language. And hopefully we will have a wonderful discussion tomorrow afternoon, and going to be really asking people to come to that panel discussion, particularly with questions. And I can already think of some regarding the brain. So we are privileged to be here with people studying really interesting stuff. Getting back to goals of the weekend, there was one other piece, which is introduction to chanting. So we have been doing this by experience. We have been doing call and response, and actually people have been sounding quite good in the room. It's been vibrating nicely for those of us here. We will also tomorrow do a little bit of introduction to metrics, which is understanding how proper pronunciation within a verse is facilitated. So that will probably be tomorrow morning. Tonight we're going to chant the alphabet and just do some relaxed writing of funny-looking new letters. Anything to add?
No, ma'am.
So let's run through alphabet chanting, unless there are any questions. No questions. Okay, we're good.
I, O, L, O, L, R, 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 Lr, 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 Lr. So when you see the writing in Devanagari or English, and you see like Padma, you would spell it Pa, Ra, Ma, and when you spell it, you hear the correct pronunciation. Sanskrit's phonetic, unlike English, which is not phonetic. But it's really helpful, I find, to just take this time to spell the words. And you will hear it, and it will vibrate in your ears, and it will affect the cerebral cortex.
So going to consonants, where there is a different quality of contact in the mouth. Ka, ka, ga, ga, nga. Ka, ka, ga, ga, nga. Ka, ka ga ga nga. Ka ka ga ga nga. Cha cha ja ja nya. 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 Tongue curled back. Da ta da da na. Ta ta da da na. Da ta da da na. Da ta da da na. Tongue by the teeth. Da ta da da na.
Ta ta da da na.
Da ta da da na.
Ta ta da da na.
Lips. Ba pa ba ba ma. Ba pa ba ba ma. Ba pa ba ba ma. Ba pa ba ba ma.
Oh. Yara lava, yara lava, yara lava, yara
lava.
Yara lava, yara lava, yara lava, yara lava.
Shasha saha, shasha saha, shasha saha, shasha saha. Shasha saha, shasha saha, shasha saha, shasha saha. I had a good question earlier today, clarifying the pronunciation of the sibilants. And it came out that I had not clearly enough taught when I was talking about the word for headstand in Sanskrit. It gives all three sibilants in the exact order that they show up in our alphabet chart. So we're going to go over again the word for headstand. Sheer.
Sheer.
Same as a sheer cliff. We have this word in English, very comfortable. Sheer.
Sheer.
And now if we curl our tongue back, we're going to use our trick again. We're going to say ta.
Ta.
And then sha.
Sha.
Ta, sha.
Ta, sha.
And then sana. Sana.
Sana.
Sheer.
Sheer.
Sha.
Sha.
Sana.
Sana.
Sheer, sha, sana.
Sheer, sha, sana.
Somewhere in the middle I might have made an long without meaning to, but how I just did it is correct. Sheer, shasana. So we're going to do more writing in the next, as long as we have, but you also have good handouts in this packet. And what I want to encourage you all to do is pick words that you like and use them as your example words for vowel combinations and for consonant combinations. So, yoga can be, how do you make an O in Sanskrit if it is not at the beginning of a word? It is a line after and a flower, but you can just take yoga as your example word. So it's important to take words that are meaningful for you. It was very special. I want to comment on it again tomorrow. Oh, okay. We have a relevant question. I was going to digress. So come on up.
No, good.
No, that's okay.
I just wanted to ask more about the handout, because you mentioned the handout. So there's a couple pages where you have like the consonant and the transliteration, and then you have empty boxes. Is that to practice writing?
Totally.
And the same ones, or to put new consonants on there?
You can do whatever you like. The boxes everywhere are to make homework. So you can do so many kaka, kiki, kukus for learning. And if you get bored with the letter ka, I highly encourage you to pick another letter.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
No,
and so
great
then you
question.
have on the next one you have the words like prana and Ayurveda and Ashtanga. So similar, like you can kind of
Those are for copying.
Copy
And
them.
those are our gift of example words.
okay.
But they have to be, you have to like them. So we just picked, like, what did we think was vocabulary that people either had interest in. And Shanta has many students who study Ayurveda. So, but it's a good one because it's got that Ra combo on the top. As well as, and Prana has obviously the Ra in the kickstand form.
So mostly these are made for copying, but if you get bored, you can do variations.
Totally. Yeah,
Okay.
these are our idea of example words. Great question.
Because then you have compound consonants. I'm just looking at all of them. So mostly for copying, but then you can do whatever you
Yeah,
want.
if you copy and then go off on your own words,
Yeah.
then you have some background to make those compound consonants.
Also, between now and tomorrow, if you have words that you like that are relevant to you, bring them to us and we can incorporate them in tomorrow's class.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We haven't taught all the complex consonants. That's what we're going to dive into in our last 20 minutes tonight, or whatever it is we have. But the first page with the prana and the ashtanga, those you have had the principles of at least. Actually, I don't think we did cerebral sha plus ta, which is a great, it's...
Very common. We should do that.
Yeah, it's humbling and surprising sometimes where I see things I wrote years ago and I think, boy, that was a good idea. And I forgot totally about it. So, shta comes up not only, well, ashtanga is from the word ashta, which means 8. And it's a very relevant word because if you look up ashta in the dictionary, there's a lot of 8s in Sanskrit tradition. But my last digression, I will just finish, which is, Sarah didn't spend a lot of time on it, but she talked about making up a questionnaire. And this is, I am a physical therapist, and one tool that is sometimes used in my profession is also outcome measures can be questionnaires. But the thing that is wonderful is she took some time to find what was important to her subjects. They weren't formally patients, whatever, the people she was helping. And that is a level of caring research that I don't think you necessarily see everywhere. It is something they tried to beat into us in physical therapy school, that goals should not be what you think the patient needs. Goals are supposed to be what they want, what's important to them. So I think it's lovely that's a piece of her research, is her outcome measures relate to what she's hearing is important to people, not just something you can measure by walking speed or something like that that's somebody else might think. Anyway, that's a digression. So let's look at some of the funny consonant combos that we haven't looked at yet. If you look at the alphabet sheet in the main house, it is the way Guruji taught us, which was 3 compound consonants were honorarily included with the alphabet. And we don't usually teach that way, but we do teach them early on because 2 reasons. Because Guruji did, and secondly, because they're extremely important in a lot of words. So 3 huge compound consonants that make a new form, but that you will see over and over again in many different words, is kshatragya. So we're going to start with ksha, which is the letter ka plus cerebral sha.
So in Devanagari, it would be a ka with a halanta stroke, meaning no vowel, plus, which sibilant is this with the dot under it? Cerebral, good. So it's that with whatever vowel it might have. In this place, we're just doing ksha. So that happens to look like something really beautiful. If you start making a figure 8, and then come down, and instead of going back up, you're going to loop over itself. And then you're going to come back to the middle part and bring from this intersection a horizontal line, maybe up a little bit, vertical line, top line gets broken a little bit here. Even if it's in the middle of the word, then you'd have the roof going over, but if it's just the letter alone, you don't need the roof on the left side. So that's your ksha, and you might want to draw this over. It's really beautiful, and it's real, and you would never know that this is the ka plus sha combination. It just came out of some unknown place.
So the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita is Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samavetaha yuyutsava mamaka pandavaschaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. I have a hard time to start a verse and not finish it. But it is talking about on the field of dharma. And then it goes actually where they are, on this field of the Kurus. But the word is kshetra. And it's a very powerful word.
We should do that word because it's got the ra kickstand also. Yeah. And we get the
I forgot about the thra part. Goodness
so
gracious.
Let's do that.
Let's do the thra, and then we can do the word.
You want kshetra or kshetre?
Dharma kshetre. Yeah, let's do kshetre as it is in the verse.
Okay, so we're going to come back to that word in a minute. And you're going to do tra first, yeah?
Tra, yes.
So tra is a dental ta. How do I know that's dental? No diacritical mark, good. So that's going to be a Devanagari ta, dental ta, with a halanta stroke because, why? No vowel with it, great. Plus the ra. And we've learned a lot about ra this weekend. So what do you think where would that ra go now in this little piece? It's going to hang like a kickstand, and that would be right here. Now, maybe a few thousand years ago, it occurred to them that this looked too much like a la. So they want to get away from confusion. So what they did, they took this tra, they kept the kickstand, and then they made this upper curve, they've shortened it, and turned it into the upper part of the bird's beak, and that's your current day tra, like so.
And I would say it doesn't have to be quite that wide, a bird's beak. But
yeah, no, I made another one.
Yeah, that one's
more likely.
Second one I like better.
But if you go into a dictionary, you're going to most likely see this tra here rather than some other combination.
You will see the outside, the inside one maybe 5% of the time, but almost always you see the bird's beak one. And I was trying to think, what are words that have tra in it? Mantra, oh my goodness.
Funny thing. So let's make kshetre.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's do kshetre.
Let's do kshetre, and
so
then
we
can
make
get to
our
mantra.
beautiful ksha, which we don't know why it became that way. It loops down over itself. It continues across here, maybe a little bit upwards. A vertical line. The vertical line should be such far away from the left part that it doesn't touch anywhere. Top line is broken at the top. And how do we make the A vowel? One flower or antenna. And now we come to our tra, because that's what we're looking for, the ta, ra, and whatever vowel. So we make our bird's beak, friend. And then again, the A, same thing. Kshetre. Ka, sha, e, ta, ra, e. Kshetre.
Wonderful.
And you can kind of see, even if you look in our alphabet, there's a medium line. When you get really comfortable, the medium line would go right through pretty much halfway up all of the letters, more or less.
The only thing I would do differently is on that bottom ksha, I would make the top a little smaller.
Sure, like she's doing this maybe, and having the bottom relatively bigger.
Yeah.
Maybe like so, something like that. But you'll work on it, and each one of you will get better and better at it, and you'll love to make this letter. I love seeing it coming up in a word.
Mantra is one of the things that I am always challenged to write nicely. So I think this is why you teach to learn, right? So I don't know, Shanta, if you can make a beautiful mantra, but I just did it a few times, and I remember the last time I taught, and I had to do it, I had the same feeling that I wasn't always 100% sure where to connect. I generally put the part of the half na in the middle of the bird's beak, but I have seen it in fonts where it attaches to the top part of the tra. What do you think, Tara Devi? Middle of the bird's beak?
I do the middle.
Okay. Well, Tara Devi is not only one of our Sanskrit teachers, but she's an artist. So she has that artistic eye.
So here I've left it quite separate, so you get the sense that's the no without the vertical line. But what Tara and Indra are talking about is really, you're kind of sticking the na in the bird's beak. Is that it? Like so?
Yeah. And I do think I have seen it in some fonts where it attaches to the top. But I think we had a vow this weekend not to try to teach every single font that we've ever seen, but to keep it simple.
But just to clarify, you're talking about... Wait a minute.
Let's keep it simple.
Let's keep it simple.
So that is mantra. And it's actually, if you pay attention to triple consonants usually involve one of two things, because you can't make too many sounds come together nicely. It's just, you run out of ways to pronounce. They usually involve semi-vowels, and you may have noticed that a lot of our examples are with ya. So actually, I am grateful to be given an example with ra, which is perfect. And the other is nasals. So, but triple consonants, you see sometimes. What we're going to focus on for the next however many minutes is a little bit more of these newly invented double consonants. So the last one in our trinity that Guruji always did was nya. So this is, I said there were two letters in Sanskrit that are sometimes pronounced a little differently. One is, we had aspirate pa. Everybody pronounce pa. Pa.
Pa.
Pa. And it can be, you will often hear it pronounced fa. Everybody say fa.
Fa.
So the difference is just you put a little teeth on your lip and you turn the aspirate pa into what we call in English an F sound.
Like in Philadelphia.
Yeah. All right, I don't know what Vietnamese soup sounds like, but we keep it simple. Anyway, so the other one is this ja plus nya. So Shanta, if you can write the two pieces, this is ja. Everybody pronounce ja. And then it goes with the nasal nya.
And these are the letters that you smile about.
So the way I pronounce it is a little bit of a nasalized nya sound.
Yeah.
You can pronounce it more as it looks like the original roots of it as a jia sound, and some scholars do that. Our dear friend Devenji, I meant to ask him, but he had to leave. to pronounce it nicely for us that way. Jnya. But I say gya, gyanam. And that's
Gyanam.
what I am more familiar with. So, writing-wise, I'll let Shanta talk. How do we write this?
So it looks, the nya almost looks like a ja, but when you go up to make your full ladle, don't go up, just loop it down over itself, and that's the nya. Just like that. An unfinished ladle. And
So-
then, of course, you have your long ah. How do we make long ah? Extra line. Dental na, how do I know that's dental? Sanskrit will rewire the brain.
So that's our three first compound consonants, and when Guruji did alphabet chanting, he always included them. So we have to chant them a little bit. Kshatragya, 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 kshatragya. Kshatragya, kshatragya. All right, so one lovely thing about Sanskrit is that the word for knowledge or wisdom shows up in all three genders, and with slightly different nuances of meaning, but that depends on context of the verse you're doing. So jnanam is both knowledge of how to fix a car and also transcendental or higher knowledge as well. So that we have had. Another lovely word we had in our first verse of this weekend, Jalabindu nipatena. Remember? Bindu nipatena kramasha puryate ghata. Sorry, let's go to page 3, as long as I've started. Kramasha puryate ghata.
Kramasha puryate ghata.
Sahetu.
Sahetu.
Sarva vidyanam.
Sarva vidyanam.
Dharmasya cha. Dharmasya cha. Dhanasya cha.
Dhanasya cha.
So that word there is vidya. So I said that vidya could also mean sciences or kinds of knowledge, which it does, but it can also mean straight up wisdom, more transcendental wisdom, you could say. So that comes from da plus ya. And again, something new is made up.
So that's a dental da with no vowel, so I'll put a halanta stroke under it, plus ya. So the da looks like this by itself, and the ya we know looks like this, very curvy. But when you basically hang the ya from the da, you start making the da, and then you can either make a little loop here, but you're going right into the shape of the Now this looks like a cha here, but it's going to be a ya. I don't think there's any other combination with the da than the ya like that. That looks like that.
So I do mine a little bit differently. Shanta's is not incorrect, but I'm going to ask him to write it more my way as well. I make the top part a little smaller because I always like to adhere to that top smaller, bottom bigger, and I slant it a teeny bit more. Actually, you slanted it pretty well. All right, and we're off camera on that, so you have to push the
sorry.
paper up.
Thank you.
That is good, except you would take off the bottom line because it ends. So scratch out the bottom because it wouldn't go that long.
You mean here?
Yeah, that line. So it's yeah. And scratch a little bit more. Yeah, perfect. So that's vidya. And actually, let me see how it shows up in our font, page 3. Let's see how they did it. Yeah. Much more like Shanta's, but really a hybrid of both of ours, and you can see clearly. So if we're talking about letters that we don't want to confuse with each other, what does this have? Let's actually do a review. So write ga.
Aspirate ga.
Aspirate ga. So aspirate ga has no neck, right? And it has the loops on the side and then a line. And then write the English maybe under it, just for review. And then we had the other one that was similar was aspirate da, dental da. And the biggest difference there is there's a gap in the line.
Top line's broken.
Top line's broken, and that one is absolutely beautiful. So ga, da, and we had cha, which is a bit different because it's got that loop that's fat, or at least the loop should not look like a line too much.
Right.
And now we have one more to add to our similar looking family, and that's the compound letter dya. And vidya is a great example of where you see that. Another one, adya, the word for today. Same dya combination.
So we see here the top line is closed for the ga. The top line is open for the da. The cha actually has a nice loop on the right where the other letters here, a straight line up and down. And this side left part does not go up to the top line. No.
Huh? Where are we?
This shouldn't go up to the top line.
If
My
the
opinion.
neck is on the other thing, I do my neck on the first piece.
You can do your neck on the left. So we can do this loop here, and the neck can be here, but then neither are at the top line. Is that so?
Huh? Wait a minute.
Does this go up to the top line in this case?
No.
So the neck goes up to the top line on the left, and that neck might be a little long.
I was just going to say that neck is a teeny bit long. But you can see how, if you pay attention to these details, it becomes very clear.
And these are like your friends, and you don't want to describe Purnima as some brunette who's 6 feet tall. It's not going to work. So you really want to get these friends dialed in nicely. They care.
Correct description. There was somebody in our ashram in San Francisco who really didn't think longs and shorts were important. And there was some word, or maybe he didn't think aspirates were important. And then he found out that if you changed one letter into if you changed it one little bit, it meant something completely different. And he said, oh, maybe this is important. So hopefully you will all appreciate that. We're just about out of time. I would like to end us with the word dhyanam, because that is an interesting one, because you drop the final vertical line of the dha, but you also often write it a little bit slanted to connect with the ya. But if we're going to do vidya, where we have a non-aspirate daya, I thought it would be good to contrast dhyanam. So here we write the half of the dha a little bit leaning back, and then we just tack it onto the ya.
Top line has to be broken because it's the daha. How is that for you?
You forgot the ya.
No,
Mostly.
the ya is here.
That's
Oh,
well,
wait a minute. No.
You didn't do
I'm
two
sorry.
loops. I've been working this man very hard, doing nothing but scribing too much.
Really? It would be ugly, I think.
Okay, so that's the general idea of dhyanam.
General idea.
General idea.
We want to keep the break in the top line because that's key to the daha. And then you'll find different ways to tie this in a little bit, but it can touch. And it doesn't have to be so low. Again, remember we're trying to develop a median line for art form.
No, that's wonderful. When Karuna was saying that Gurji had me catch her up, he had Bharati catch me up. That was my great grace. And when she first did, I wrote things bigger. And I used lined paper and used that middle line as a way to find the spatialness. That, I would say that the there is a little bit big in compared to the ya, but it is the end of the day. We will write it again tomorrow. What I've learned with teaching students, for me, I made my letters big until I got comfortable with them. And then all of a sudden at one point, I didn't need to make them big. And I went down to one line. It depends hugely on how thick your lined paper is also. If it's small spaces or bigger spaces. But I have learned over decades that some students really like to write small, and it doesn't help them in the beginning to write big. So I encourage you all to find your comfort zone with how you like to write.
And remember, if you need an extra class or four and you want to have a one-on-one Zoom session, just let me know. That's part of this whole program, what you bought into.
So this...
With lined paper, you can repeat. I was just looking at the book. With the lined paper, you can use that paper line to help line up your
top line. Yeah, no, that's hugely helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
you just have to remember if you're, and that's a great idea, when you're going to break the top line for a letter, to not fill it in like you would the rest. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, thank you, Purnima. So Purnima was saying, for those of you who were not, who were online, that if you use lined paper, you can use the line to help line up your top line of the font.
As well as you can pick one of those lines for the median line and just have it more or less equal from the top of each letter to the bottom of each letter. Should all be the same height, more or less.
What we have done when we've taught in person is we've gone around the room and sort of checked people's handwriting and circled the best examples and drawn lines through ones that didn't work, and as needed, corrected. This is a different format because we're doing hybrid. But feel free to come up to us and ask about, does this look right? About anything. And you can also, I'm going to volunteer Tara Devi because she is one of our experienced teachers. Anybody here, but that is sometimes helpful to do it in person. We do it online because we do a lot online, but it's, we've had students sort of hold their sheets up to the camera and we say, beautiful, or that should be a little shorter. It all works. But thank you so much for coming. Tomorrow we will be back with more compound consonants, another verse. I'm not sure what order we're doing things in, but our piece tomorrow.
Our piece is from 10:15 to 11, and then Paras and Sarah will be here from 11 to 11:45, and then we'll be back from 11:45 to 12:20 or so before lunch. And then the afternoon tomorrow will be 2:30 to 5, panel only. And we encourage everybody to come and give us your input and help us see how we can move forward with this. The beginning of this is like a baby for what we're thinking about for the ashram.
So we will be doing one more verse, a few more consonants, and a little introduction to metrics somewhere in those two pieces we have early tomorrow. Okay, so tonight, for those of you who are here, we will have fire ceremony at 7, followed by meditation and then kirtan.
Yeah, there's no brain work tonight at all.
In the main house and not live streamed, yeah. So
Good night to let your brains air out.
So those of you who are tuning in from afar, we will be back online with you at 10:15 Eastern
We're
tomorrow.
going to chant something to close.
Yeah.
Shanti. Om.